Way back into the distant past, when Pete was like 15, he joined a mail-in movie club, 11 days for pennies. And now cut to 2025, the movie club caught on to Pete's life, and now they want to punish him, so they trapped him in a room with a bunch of movie tapes. Pete didn't want to pay for the movies he got in the 90s. He'll have to watch random horror tapes and tell us about gore and probably some rape. Now keep in mind, Pete didn't pick. They use random numbers and a long list. He's got to get through every movie, one each day for the time we can't foresee. Helpful snowman roll call. Anxiety. Grouchiness. Entropy. Snow. If you're wondering why he did this song and other FAQ facts, just shut up and listen to this show, or fuck it, take a nice nap. It's Helpful Snowman Podoween 2025.
Well, everybody, I did it today. I hit the jackpot, provided the the treasure that we were seeking with this Podoween was a furry slasher movie. This is a movie called Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf opens with the backstory, which is basically that a guy who's a school mascot shows up at a party and he's in his mascot costume for some reason I'm not sure of, and the jocks light him on fire as a prank, which is exceptionally dickish, right? I mean, horror movies have this history or like this kind of trope of jocks like fucking with nerds or having sex in a cabin while some little deformo is drowning or whatever, stuff like that. But this is definitely one where you're like, I mean, if this guy got set on fire and then came back as a murderer and killed these dudes, I wouldn't not be on his side. You know what I mean? I'd be like, I mean, you know, none of us condone violence. But on the other hand, it's like, I mean, you set that guy on fire. I can't say you don't deserve to be, you know, furry murdered, I guess. So we get that backstory, then we cut to modern day, and we have our 4 to 5 heroes, which are like cute college-ish age girls who are all furries and going to a furry convention. Now, I don't know a ton about furries. And, you know, this is not me being like, I don't know what a furry is. You know, like I know what a furry is, but I don't know. I'm not embedded in the culture. It's not at all that I'm better than a furry. I'm probably worse than any individual furry. If you picked any random furry and I was up against them in any sort of category, unless it was like amount of money spent on costumes, I would probably have spent less on costumes. Not for sure, but probably. But you know, I was like, well, I'm not gonna like learn all about furry culture just to evaluate this shitty movie. And you know, like I'm not interested in learning about, you know, and I'm not like intrigued by it. It's just like this. It's kind of like I'm not opposed to furries doing their thing, like you do your thing. For me, it's like rec softball leagues or something. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, man, if that's what you want to do, you do it. But none for me, thanks. So if I had to do one, like if I had to go to a furry party or play in a rec softball league, I'd probably go to the furry party, honestly, because that would be less embarrassing. I really am that bad at sports. So I think it'd be less embarrassing. Like, even if it's not just because I'm covered in a costume, like even if I came out in costume and they thought I was a famous person, so then they plastered my furry picture all over the news, and then they're like, just kidding. We just thought like a guy this weird looking was probably Steve Buscemi's son, but turns out no. So we just put this guy all over. Even then, it's probably still be better. You know what I mean? It'd be better than living in a city that had a rule called like the Pete rule for their softball leagues, which is some kind of mercy rule they created because I'm that bad at softball. So anyway, I don't know enough about it. The reason I'm saying all this, I don't know enough to know for sure if this movie is like a good portrayal of furries or not, but I suspect it's not for the following reasons. One, a mascot who dresses as a mascot is not necessarily a furry, right? Like, I think both mascots and furries would be pretty adamantly in agreement that, you know, it's not the same thing. I don't think the person who dresses up for a sports team and does it for, 4 years of high school and then doesn't really do it anymore, I don't know that that person's a furry per se. Number two, this is a little rougher, but the furries in this movie are all young, hot chicks, right? And my guess is that this is not the core furry demographic. Now, this is no shade on furries. It's more like I think all movies portray every subculture as skewing towards being young, hot chicks more than reality. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if you made a movie about, I don't know, professional golfers, I feel like they'd be a lot more likely to be young, hot chicks than in real life. Or like the camp counselors in Friday the 13th are almost certainly more like young, hot chicks than camp counselors in real life. You know what I mean? Like, here's the other thing. Why that doesn't ring true to me. It's like, you're going to wear a full furry suit when you're young and hot. That's insane. I feel like hot people do not want to cover up. You know what I mean? They suffered wildly in the early 2020s, in the masking days, because their primary advantage was no longer available to them, right? Meanwhile, us uggos were mostly fine, maybe even better off. Like, you had to play Schrodinger's hot guy with me. For all you knew, I could have been halfway decent under that Super Mario cloth mask I was wearing. Number three, the furries in the movie seem to have a pretty laissez-faire like relationship to wearing their fur suits. So like they mostly put on the heads and the gloves here and there, and they often remove them. They do it in the middle of the party at the furry convention or whatever. And I'm not sure whether furries really do this or not, but my guess would be that it might be kind of a faux pas, FAUXPAWS, to do this mid-party. Otherwise, like, what would a furry party even be? You know what I mean? Everybody's just taking their costumes on and off the whole time, not really wearing much of a costume. Like, wouldn't that just be a party? Four, being a furry does not seem to have anything to do with sex in the movie, and I'm pretty sure it's a sex thing. I am very certain it's a sex thing, but it doesn't seem to be in the movie a sex thing, so that's baffling. So anyway, another thing to know about Lone Wolf is that this movie has a shitload of padding. Like, it has one of my favorites, what I call the Birdemic Special, which is long time-lapse driving sequences. You know what I mean? Where it's like, well, they're going somewhere far away, so we have to show them driving for a long time, right? And you're like, not really. I mean, in The Shining, how long are they in the car in The Shining? 45 seconds? And, they're in a remote, far away for them place, but come on, man. There's a whole sequence in a bar that has no real reason. Okay, so our heroes go to the furry convention, which definitely looks to be like in a library meeting room in the middle of the day, which is something I know about. I know what a library meeting room looks like. This really resembles one. It could be like some kind of rentable lounge on a community college campus. Could be that. But it's one of those things. It is definitely not like a cool party warehouse or something. It's a very tiny room that is extremely well lit in the middle of the day. And there's no drinking going on, which the thing I'm most curious about furries is like, how do they drink at parties? Or do they? Do you think they wear like a camelback and a hydration bag, and just have a straw? But anyway, the furry girls they dance. They maybe do karaoke, and this goes on for a long time. But then they get booted from the convention because one of the furry babes barfs on a guy who I guess is like a famous furry. And see, if she'd been wearing her goddamn furry mask, she would have just filled the head with vomit. You know what I mean? No one would have known. So maybe these furries are onto something, you know what I mean? A very specific something, which does result in you getting your own head covered in vomit. But, there's something going on here. So we go to outside. Our heroes sit in the car. They're like mad, I guess, that they got kicked out of the party. And they run across this guy who is a famous furry's brother, the famous furry who got thrown up on. This is his brother, who I guess was outside because he was like, I wanted to make fun of people. Also, thought there would be loose women on the prowl. I can't remember exactly how he phrases that. This is the only mention of the possibility of sex. And I can't tell, I don't know if it's actually because he's like, that's what furries do, or if he's supposed to be an idiot. And that's obviously not what furries do. I don't know. Anyway, he's like, well, I can get you into a party. My brother's throwing a big party, and I can get you in. So they're like, awesome. So inexplicably, they leave the party where the famous furry is to go to a party the famous furry is throwing. And they drive, they stay overnight somewhere, and then they drive some more to get to this party. Even though we just left the party he was at. You know what I mean? It's like, wouldn't it make more sense? Like, the girls meet up with a furry at the convention, right? And then he's like, the real party is going to be at my boy's place. He's this famous furry. You know what I mean? And then they go to that place. Wouldn't that be more sensible? Or they like go to a furry convention and it's lame. It's in the fucking library meeting room in the middle of the day. Anyway. And won't they arrive at the party way before the guy who's okay, you just have to let this go, right? But they would get there before the guy because he's still at the party, and you definitely have to clean up that library meeting room before he leaves so he can get the damage deposit taken off his library card. That would be a disaster. All of this happens before we get to the party and any sort of slashing happens, okay? All of this stuff, right? There's one more piece of backstory. Our main furry girl has a sister who was also a furry and is missing. So the wolf burned up mascot guy shows up at this big furry party. But he looks super fucked up. It's kind of awesome because he's like burned and, there's like some kind of gore, I guess, on him. And he's also a furry. And I was like, I wonder if there are that kind of furry. Because on the one hand, I was like, I don't know, who's going to be attracted to like seeping burn wounds? And on the other hand, I'm like, in a weird way, I'm like, is that way more bizarre than being furry? You know what I mean? I'm not throwing any shade on furries. I'm just saying, looking at this from 1,000-foot view, and it's like someone who's like, ooh, this burned up flesh is kind of hot. And someone else who's like, this cartoon animal flesh is kind of hot. I'm like, I don't know. Seems like 6 of one, half dozen the other to me. Which either amount of donuts is too many to eat in one sitting, but I don't know why I brought up donuts. I'm just thinking about donuts. I would like to be eating a donut right now. That's where I'm at. So anyway, the burned up mascot guy shows up and he kills a couple people and then he drags away the main girl, right? Now the cops show up and there's a hilarious sheriff character actor man who has like a cigar the whole time and he always has lines that are meant to sound badass. But, they're lines like, brew some strong coffee, boys. This is going to be a long night.
Sheriff, we thought we had ourselves a regular slaughterhouse here. When we first arrived on the scene, we thought it was a couple of poachers or something skinning a bunch of animals. We realized it was people when Deputy Carpenter picked up one of those fur head helmets and a head just fell out. Spun around on the floor and looked right at him. Spooked him real bad.
Sheriff, we got ourselves a couple of witnesses. Some kids at the party positively ID'd the killer. You want to talk to them?
You bet I do. Drugs, what we got here is a bona fide serial killer. Better get yourself some strong coffee. Because we're going to be up all night.
And you're like, if someone said that in real life, you'd be like, yeah, sure, okay. Will do. I guess, Good one, Chief. I don't know. Whenever I see movies like this, it reminds me a little bit of the movie Slaughterhouse we saw. And there was this girl in it who was so annoying, side character. And you could tell what happened is like on set, everyone was like, oh, this girl's entertaining. You know, let's bump her up in the movie. Let's just put the camera on her and just be like, tell her to do something. And then you're like, I think it was better in a limited dose. Okay, so main girl's kidnapped by the furry wolf burned up guy and wakes up in a cage. Turns out her sister was also kidnapped by the same guy. And the guy is sewing the sister into a furry suit so they can be the same and be together as a family. And I guess that's the plan for the hero girl too. Sister wives, sisters. I don't know. However that works out. That's a whole other thing. Some of the friends who aren't dead quite yet show up and sort of fight off the wolf and release the sister. And she manages to light the wolf on fire again and escape, which is, it's kind of funny because you're like, he was created this way by being lit on fire. And so it's like, his one weakness being completely engulfed in flames, which you're like, I think that's a weakness for almost everyone except for Johnny Storm, the Human Torch. Metamorpho, the Element Man, maybe, perhaps. Yeah, I could name some comic book characters who are not susceptible to flames, but I could name more that are. And that's, comic books, which aren't the real world. Everyone keeps reminding me of that. Like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm aware. I've read this great Spider-Man comic. Comics aren't real life, right? Yeah. That's why I'm reading them, because real life is real life, and it's bullshit. So anyway, we get a scene in the hospital, where it's like everyone's recovering or whatever. And then the wolf shows up, of course, for one last go. And then he gets an AED to the head and that finishes him off. And I know that's not how AEDs work, right? And like, just trust me when I tell you, like, this movie was so padded and was kind of slow that happened and I was just relieved. I didn't even have time to think about like, that's not how that works. Cause I was like, no, I want it to work that way. It kind of almost felt like I wanted it to work that way badly enough that it manifested and worked that way. And like, by the way, I propose that we should just re-toggle AEDs so they do work that way so that movies make sense. Because I'm tired of movies doing that all the time and TV shows, and I don't think they're going to change gears anytime soon. It's probably easier at this point to change life-saving medical equipment than it is to get people to write coherent plots. Okay, then we get a scene where the coroner is about to autopsy the wolf. I guess because we autopsy everyone for whatever reason. And you're not going to believe this. Coroner about to do the autopsy, eating a sandwich. You believe that? And he sets it right on top of the wolf's body. Now, like, let me just say something to people making a movie, right? Like, that's a super cliche, right? Is like a coroner who just doesn't give a shit eating a sandwich in a gross situation. If that's in this movie, if there's a sandwich eating coroner in this movie, that tells you that it is super done and you have to do something else, okay? Here's what you do. I'm going to just tell everyone the move. If you want to make a movie and have a sort of entertaining side joke for a coroner, you have him be super squeamish, right? Constantly looking away while he cuts up a body. That's good stuff. That's comedy now. You just go the opposite direction. So easy. So anyway, it turns out, of course, that the body under the sheet isn't the wolf's, and the wolf is on the loose again, I guess, so we can have a potential sequel. Lovely. So, I mean, like, overall, here's what happens with Lone Wolf, right? There's a fun idea here. There's something to it. But the movie violates its own premise too much, like that movie Slaughterhouse, right? That's a movie about a sloth killing people, but the sloth is not slow because it's on cocaine or something, or drugs. It's like a cocaine bear situation. And I'm like, the whole point of Slaughterhouse would be that the sloth is slow, so it has to kill people super slow, or like create Rube Goldberg inventions to overcome its slowness. And when it's like a fast sloth and you're like, oh, well, okay, fine. So anyway, like, it would have been way better if the characters had spent like most of the movie. You could even do 100% of the movie with them in costume, or at least like half the movie. You know what I mean? They were probably in costume 5 or 10% of the time, and for no consequential moments. And the costumes had nothing to do with what they were doing. And them being furries didn't really have anything to do with it. You know what I mean? It really, you have a furry-based slasher, but then you're like, well, what if there were no furries in it? You know, what if they spent very little time engaging with being a furry? It's like having camp counselors get killed. Oh, what if this guy rampaged at a camp? But you just show the camp counselors during the winter, not at the camp. You know what I mean? You're like, 75% of the Friday the 13th was spent in the winter in New Jersey, for them being like, can't wait till the Camp Crystal Lake opens. I don't know. So I think you could have had fun with that. But it's just like, the furry part ends up being shitty, and not because it's a bad representation. It's like the furry portion is just a seasoning, and it doesn't propel or affect the story. And so it just, I don't know. It's no different from any of a dozen other slashers of that type. And there's not enough mayhem until the very end of the movie. You know what I mean? Like, we need something to keep us going, a little thrill here and there. And we don't get that. So I'm going to rate this movie on a softball system. How many rec league softball at bats would I take to avoid watching this movie a second time? So my hesitation here is informed by my belief that a lot of rec softball pitchers are probably former college players and stuff, so that's concerning. But I'd probably get up there 3 or 4 times to avoid watching this movie again. Like, you can just sort of stand way back from the plate, right? Not get hit, have no real chance of hitting the ball, and just calmly explain to everyone on your team that you're sorry, but, like, I can't play softball. And the only way I could get out of watching a movie about a furry who's a serial murderer was to get up to bat a few times. Like, it seems like a completely reasonable, logical explanation that anyone would accept.
It's helpful, Snowman, Podoween 2025.